Hello, welcome back. Right, the purpose of this video is, well, firstly I'm just in the background, I'm just testing some of the Amstrad tapes that came with a machine that Mark kindly sent me earlier this week. And it's led me to want to sort of expand on a couple of points I've mentioned in a couple of videos recently whenever it's come to collecting hardware. And firstly I want to say that it's a great hobby, as I'm sure all of you know. There's many of you that do it. There's many of you who have way more systems than I've got. I've got the Spectrum, Commodore 64 and the Amstrad, and something else to come. And it's absolutely great. There's nothing like playing a real game on the real system, you know, loading from tape, etc. But there's a couple of issues with that, and as I said before, it is space. Now, a lot of us are space is a premium, really, and these machines themselves aren't small. And then when you look at building up a collection of tapes and games, etc., the majority of which will work fine. The remainder will work to a lesser extent, and a lot of them will just not work at all. But you end up in a situation where you are struggling to put stuff, find somewhere to put stuff. And I've mentioned before, I've got a hell of a lot of Spectrum tapes in boxes of various, oh shut up you, various shapes and sizes. I always forget to turn that flipping thing down. Who is that? Oh, I don't even know that person. Various shapes and sizes, etc. And when you add on to that, looking to build a collection of C64 games, now a collection of Amstrad games, yeah, it's becoming a bit of a problem, and I've been looking for other ways to achieve the goal that I like, which is to play the games on the original hardware. Now, a lot of you will know all this information already, so please don't, I'm not coming across as like a brain box or anything like that about yeah, these issues. These are all things that I've picked up and I've found over the last couple of years. I'm not an expert on any of it. I'm not an expert on technology or anything. But if you're new to this and you're picking up per video, or you're picking up this video and you're thinking, oh, I quite fancy getting one of those computers, but I haven't got the room. There are options available to allow you to achieve that, like I said. And what has worked for me, but people, please feel free to shout in with suggestions and, you know, better things and better solutions to the ones that I suggest. Please, 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 by all means do so, and put them in the comments box down below. Now, a lot of the old systems, you know, used to work on CRT TVs. They're not fairly hard to come by, but they're sort of cumbersome sort of beasts in themselves. And a lot of us have got these flat screen monitors and televisions and stuff now, with SCART lead extensions, etc. And they will accept. This one's got an RF lead, but if I plug this, it's a really fuzzy picture. So one of the first things that was suggested to me when I first started asking around was to pick up one of these things from the Retro Computer Shack. I will link to them down below. This is for the Spectrum Plus 2, which is over here. You plug the one end into the sort of, hang on, make sure I'm not telling you to plug it into the PowerPoint, into the end there, and then you stick it in the back of the telly, and it gives you a wonderful picture. And that's what I use for all my Spectrum videos, etc. Now, in order to load the games itself, there are lots and lots of mechanical devices that people use, such as the Div MMC devices, which you can also get from, which you can get from places like the futurewas8bit.com. I don't have one of them, but I've seen a lot of people mention them and how sort of great they are and that they're a godsend, etc., and allow you to load games into your Spectrum almost instantaneously from SD card. What I use is, you've seen it in videos before, is this thing, a MP3 converter, cassette converter. It's supposed to be for a car. And on my phone, from the Android Play Store, there's an app on it called playzx, And if I go into it, we'll just go into D. Just select Dandy, just for instance. This is the first one that came up. Plug that into the headphone jack, stick this in the thing, press load and play on tape, and then you select what game you want, and then you simply press play on it on that. And that app has got loads and loads of games on it, the majority of which do load first time all the time. Now, yeah, okay, you've got to go through the whole sort of like loading process with it, but I actually quite enjoy that. Apparently, you can use it on the Amstrad as well, but you have to convert the files through something called WinZX. Now, I've not tried that yet, so I don't know how successful that's going to be, etc. But that lead, that aerial lead, is what I've also got one of for the Amstrad. Now, you'll be aware that the Amstrad came initially with its power supply built into the monitor that came with it. But nowadays, again, from the future was 8-bit, you can get a PSU, a ready-made PSU to use. I've got a homemade one there that Mark sent me, and I've got this scart thing in the back of the TV as well, giving a really nice picture and really nice sound. So yeah, you can use these MP3 players, sorry, MP3 cassette converters. They cost about £2, £3. I think that one cost me about five or six quid from Tesco's a couple of years back. And there are plenty of other apps. In fact, my first ever video, I believe, was on how to load a game using one of those into a real Spectrum through a tablet. It was a different app. It wasn't playzx. That's one I've only found recently. I'll have to dig out. I really should have researched that. Now, for the Commodore 64, there's options as well. Now, the reason it's not over there, where I was looking, is because I put it there just about 30 seconds ago. I bought this thing. This was suggested to me as well because the dataset and some of the tapes I've got for the Commodore 64, they're suffering from the problems tapes tend to. There's a few there that work first time, and there are others that don't at all, and there are others that will work just as often as they won't. And it was suggested to me to purchase one of these devices, again from the future was 8-bit, and this device is called an SD to IEC, which plugs into the cassette port of your Commodore 64, and then into the one that isn't the video thing on the back. I can't remember what it's called, and it's a replica basically of the disk drive, the 1541 disk drive, and it allows you to load disk images into the Commodore 64 from SD cards. Now they do a preloaded SD card with a load of files on it, etc. And I have ordered it. It hasn't arrived yet, so I can't really go too in depth about that. But from all the videos and stuff that I've seen on YouTube, etc., about these various devices, they all seem to get really well regarded and really quite useful. So I can't actually wait for that SD card to arrive so that I can start going into things a bit more, seeing a lot more of what the C64 has to offer, which is also what I want to do with the Amstrad. Now that game is Roland in Time. I've had a quick play of it. It looks cheap and cheerful. It's quite tricky. I'll do a video of it at some point, but it wasn't there for me to play it and do a review of it. It's just because I'm going through the tapes and the fact that I was thinking about, is there a way similar to get something, a similar device for the Amstrad as there is for the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum. If you know of one, then please let me know. But that was the sort of purpose, was just a little bit of an infomercial basically, just for people that if you were considering getting a machine or two again, but you were worried about, you know, where am I going to get tapes and stuff and that from and whatnot. It's really handy to have these things the fact that people are still creating these incredible devices to allow almost instant loading or replicate old machines, you know, so that they work flawlessly, etc., is absolutely brilliant, and it's opened the whole sort of scene up again. I mean, you can play whatever game you want when you want, from through an app or from an SD card, and it will work first time every time, most of the titles. So it's just really great. Now, if you do play that way, please join in and tell us what your experiences are, what machine or device that you use, what the strengths and weaknesses are of one over the other, etc. Because they're a godsend. They really are. Now, like I said, I've not felt the need to buy one of the Div MMC devices for the Spectrum, because I actually like the whole loading process. I don't know whether or not you can replicate that from SD cards. You probably can. And the MP3 and the phone app do that just fine for me. So I don't really see a need to change that. And the app is free, and the cassette converter thing costs a few quid. That's it. And by getting the app, you've got access to hundreds of titles really instantly, that you can load in through your Spectrum. So that was just a very quick video. I say it was a very quick video. It probably wasn't, because I spent most of it talking bollocks. Like I say, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, so if I've got anything wrong or I've misinformed people, A, it's unintentional, and B, please correct me in the comments box down below. But I'm particularly interested in what your views on all these solutions are, whether or not you think it's a bit of a no-no, you should just play from cassette. Well, that sadly isn't an option a lot of the time for a lot of people, for a lot of reasons. Or whether you think, yeah, this is great, you know, this is a whole new world of operation for us. Now, that's it really. If you like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. But if you do subscribe, please take time to join in with the discussions, particularly in relation to the topics that I've raised during the course of this video. That's it. Bye.